My family owns a cottage in the Muskoka Lakes area. It is a modest house on an absolutely breathtaking lake, surrounded by coniferous woods. My family usually goes up there around August, but this summer I decided to venture earlier and meet some friends at their cottage just across the lake. I brought up the essentials for my partying: liquor, pot, and fungus, about 10 grams in case anyone else wanted them. But to my surprise, my friends were not at their cottage and I was forced to spend 2 nights alone. The first night I rented a movie and had a couple drinks with it, followed by some good, old-fashioned sleeping in. The next evening was an experience I'll never forget. The day started off simple enough, with a hot cup of coffee and a cigarette. I then went to see if my friends were home yet, and with luck, I had caught them as they were packing up to go back to the city for another week. However, they purchased most of my mushrooms from me, leaving me with about 4 grams for myself. I decided that night was when they would be consumed. Besides, I hadn't had a spiritual experience for a while, so why not? I went to town and rented another movie, and at about 7 o'clock, I began watching. As the previews rolled by, I noticed the lack of anything else to eat with my shrooms. All I had left was pop, so I took a piece of paper, folded it in half the long way, and poured the dust in the fold. I funneled all the dust into my mouth as I tipped my head back and took a swig of my Coke. The combo fizzed unexpectedly, overflowing in my mouth and spilling approximately a gram of fungi. I reluctantly swallowed the remaining mix and grimaced from the bittersweet taste. I continued watching my movie and didn't notice any differences until the ending, when Forrest Gump's face began to ebb and flow in tiny ripples. I looked around the living room at the setting sun and felt a visual equivalent of sexual arousal. I wanted to intensely observe my surroundings all I could. It went like that for about 2 hours, me sitting in the living room, taking in my surroundings and sensing so many things at once that I felt I had to get out. Although I was the only one in the house, I felt I had to get out. My sudden claustrophobia caused me to jump out of my recliner and to the screen door. I rushed out the door as if not getting away from something anymore, but magnetized toward something. I felt myself walk along the lakeside, not exactly sure of where I was going, but positive that I was going somewhere. My instinct told me just to keep walking. It felt like about a half hour that I trod the shoreline, my eyes fixed on the water still as glass. I contemplated whether or not it would be possible for me to walk on the glassy surface or to ice skate in the middle of summer. My eyes strayed straight ahead as I realized I was at a resort on the same lake as my cottage. My purpose became dreadfully clear. I was to find myself near here. I kept tracing the shoreline until I came to the clearing that was the golf course. It was truly a magnificent sight to behold. I saw a perfectly trimmed grass clearing, with the crystal clear lake to one side, with the moon reflecting softly off the water. On the other side of the clearing was the dark, menacing woods, casting shadows and concealing evil, no doubt. I felt frightened by the woods, but reassured myself by refixing my eyes on the water. And so I walked on, coming to the center of the golf course and noticing in the moonlight a white object placed in the middle of the course. I walked closer until I could make it out, then stopped in bewilderment. It was a Muskoka chair, Adirondack chair for you Yankees, placed oddly enough in the middle of the goddamn golf course. What purpose would it serve? I suddenly realized it was there for me. I was to find myself in this chair. Slowly, I lowered myself into the chair. It was covered in dew and faced toward the lake. I took this as a metaphor for how I should live. I should begin looking at the good lake and stop my pessimism by turning my back to the bad woods. As I looked out into the water, I began thinking about myself and how I had been living my life lately. My career had come secondary to socializing, and I had neglected my family for the past year. I could see myself in the lake as if it had turned from glass into a mirror, showing me what I was doing in my life and how to change it. I came to the divine realization that only hard work and optimism could make me into the kind of person I wanted to be. I sat in the chair until sunrise, when I promptly marched back home and got some much-needed sleep. I had beats pounding through my head at 4 a.m., and they had since died away. My life has drastically been changed by this experience, and I haven't done mushrooms since. My hard work and optimism have paid off in a recent relationship and a promotion at my job. I feel refreshed every day I wake up and I have those 3 grams of mushrooms to thank for it. They open my eyes to what's really going on in my life.